What's up, guys? It's Isaac. Today I'm in my office here in downtown York, and I'm going to discuss a little bit of why I chose this market and how I operate in this local market. And I'm sitting here with Dave. He's a business partner of mine. We own some rentals together, and he'll try to chime in and tell us why he likes this market as well. So I like this market because it's a low barrier to entry. I obviously live here, and I think there's a lot of upside appreciation being so close to Washington, D.C., New York City, Harrisburg. It's just a breeding ground for a lot of positive things. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I echo some of the same sentiments. It's always been a affordable, like a buy and hold type market. Not as great as it used to be on what the price is, but I think it's just because the secret's starting to get out. But this is one of the few markets in the country where you can still buy property for a fraction of replacement cost, which is amazing. You know, you can buy a whole house for less than $100,000, which is crazy.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who don't know, the architecture here is more of a row home townhouse style, but it's an old property. Remember the properties built in the city?
A lot of them are like 1800s.
Right, so a lot of the properties are 1800 builds, brick row homes. So it's an interesting style of living. It's not like a major city where you have all these high rises of businesses. People live right downtown. So as a real estate investor, obviously you can choose fix and flipping, buy and holding. You can try to go down that subject to route. Me personally, I like to buy and hold real estate. I'm trying to exit the rat race. I want to try to collect as much cash flow as I can so I can live a passive lifestyle and enjoy the things that, that we all enjoy in life. I do flip houses, but primarily, again, like I said, I really enjoy the buy and hold. I think that's where your real wealth is created. You hold that property, it appreciates, it cash flows. It's just really the only way I really believe in. What about you, Dave? What strategies are you using?
Yeah, I started out buy and hold from the get-go. Got into flipping a couple times when the market was good for that. But I always feel like with flipping, you put all this effort into a property and then you sell it, and you got to go do that all over again. If you're in buy and hold, you put the same amount of effort in, but you get to keep that investment forever if you want, or at least as long as you decide that, hey, this is a good investment. So it's not like you're wasting all the effort you have into that project.
Yeah, and something with buy and hold, a lot of people think there's this, there's this misconception that the interest rates are high right now and that you can't make money owning rental properties. And in my opinion, that's just not true. I did a little presentation the other day and I did some research on what interest rates have been over the past 50 years. And really interest rates didn't get down into these low 2.3s till 2015. So from 2015 to about 2020 is when we had these low interest rates. So I saw this podcast and the guy was like, oh yeah, it's really expensive to borrow money right now. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? He's either inexperienced or doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think when I got started it was like 2007-ish and rates were above 5, and we thought they were cheap then, and then stuff got cheaper and cheaper, and it's just been crazy. But people were doing deals then. There's people that have been in the business way before I started that.
Yeah, when Donald Trump started, interest rates were probably high, so here we are.
Right, he's doing all right.
You better than Donald Trump? Don't think so.
But yeah, the rates, inflation is crazy, and that's what drives the increase in value anyway. So if the properties are going to be going up in value like 12%, 11%, it doesn't really matter if the rate's below that.
Yeah, so Dave, can you explain how if interest rate is 7 and you're obviously then making a positive return on your property, then you also have inflation. So how does that work when you as a landlord, you have to figure all those things, and can you break that down?
The most important thing to know about real estate versus other investments is you're borrowing the money to buy the asset. So if you buy something and it just breaks even, most of that money came from the bank. It's not your money. So instead of having a $10,000 worth of cash that is depreciating, I'm buying a $100,000 asset. Even if I'm just paying it, the value of that asset is going up as the value of the dollar goes down, and I just have more of it than I had if I'm just sitting on cash or buying something with straight up money.
Yeah, I saw since 2020 the dollar has gone down 25% in value, and I did a quick Google search, and the value of real estate from 2020 till now. So from 2020 till now, the dollar's gone down 25%, and the cost of real estate has appreciated like 39% just nationwide. So
Right.
in a market like York, it's gone up, drastically. I know like that house I just sold, I bought it for 60,000, and I thought, I'm like, oh shit, I just overpaid for this house. That was what, 2020. So 4 years later, I just sold it for 206.
That's
It's
crazy.
freaking wild. And it isn't anything crazy I did.
Right.
Property just appreciated.
When I don't think it's anything any of us do. It's not like, that's the great part about this business is it's not magic. Like you just have to do it, and it isn't anything. It's not a factor of the property. It's the dollar being destroyed. So as long as they're going to keep doing that, which they are, it's just how long can I hold on to this property? The longer I hold on to it, the better it gets.
Do you think that the market or real estate and just in general, they're doing all this manipulation? Does it ever break?
It's hard for me to say no to that question because I lived through '08, and I was in real estate
But
at the time.
they could keep this propped up forever, or not forever, but they could keep propping this up. I was just telling someone the other day, this might be a little sticky subject, but a lot of people know about the immigration issues going on in the country. Issues or not, but there's a lot of people coming into this country who, are coming in on planes, however they're getting here, right? The government's stimulating them with like a stimulus check, a cell phone. I was just down on Duke Street, and there was these people out there, free phones. And I told the guy I'm with, I'm like,
Did you get a free phone?
I didn't get a free phone. I'm like, this is like Obama phones all over again. Now, if they did this back, or if they're doing this in major cities and they're giving all these illegal immigrants free phones, and they're going to give them, $300 towards that phone bill, and they're going to give them $300 to go eat, drink, buy goods in that market, it's going to prop that economy up. And that's going to last a little while. Now it's all fabricated, but that drives the real estate values as well.
And I think, we're in a consumption-based economy, and people that are not established and are just getting money like that, the money has to become spent because they're doing the same thing everybody else is doing. They're trying to get stable housing, they're trying to get stable transportation, and then they're trying to kind of make their way. So in order to do that stuff, it's like housing, furniture, transportation, all that stuff has to be spent before anybody can get anywhere. And I have a philosophy about like renters in general where that's a big part of the reason why they can't move on, because if you don't get into home ownership at some point, you're just redoing that every so often. You're rebuying the same stuff. Your car wears out, your furniture wears out, it's consumable items, and while that's good for the economy, it's not necessarily good for the individual.
Yeah. Did you see that BlackRock just bought that massive real estate holding company for, was it $10 billion cash?
I did. I was on the fence about a purchase I was in the process of making, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty expensive. I'm like, I don't know if I should buy this. And then you sent me that Instagram release, and I'm like, if they're buying like that, I need to just get over
smarter
myself.
than them. So they're obviously Wall Street, BlackRock, they're betting on multifamily. So in my opinion, what I see there is I should buy multifamily, but that means they're betting on the renter market. So they're already projecting or realizing that we're going to become a renters nation, which is already obviously clear. I don't know how many friends you see on Facebook, but people are always complaining about, I don't know if you've seen lately, there's this thing that's going around like how much money a single person needs. It's like $94,000.
Right,
This is nationwide. And then a couple with a kid needs $225,000 to survive, and everyone's whining about that. And that does suck, and the way that you guys get out of that is by starting businesses, buying real estate, stuff like that. But that's just when the average public person or the public is whining about the cost of living, that's how you know we're going to stay a renters nation.
Well, and like the biggest thing I've been seeing is, housing costs have gotten significantly higher because of these rate hikes in a short period of time. So even though we had a real big run up in rent over the last 3 years, now like instantaneously the cost of housing has jumped like not quite double, but substantially in a short period of time. Well, already those rent prices, which we thought were excessively high, it's more favorable to rent than to own right now. Again, already. So that has to go up, but there's some pent up demand.
Something you said that I think we could talk about is You talked about how the rents have like really climbed over the past 3 years with house prices. So um, obviously you and I own around 30 rentals together. How many properties do you own without me?
I have like another 11 units, and then I have a couple other partnerships where I
How
have
many doors is it? Is it 11 or?
11
like 20.
doors.
Okay, so
yeah.
so like 40 properties or 40 units. What are you doing, or have you slowly been increasing rent on those people, or how are you keeping up with the market? Because me personally, I'm a nice person. I know everyone thinks we're slumlords and we're arrogant and we're this and we don't have real jobs, but like I care about my tenants and I'm also just a decent human. And it's hard to keep up with that. Like I have 2 or 3 single families in this city that the rents are $700 still. And I just saw one go up for rent for $1,250. And I'm like, I'm literally at half value. So what are you doing to try to, or are you doing anything?
So I typically I raise rent every year, like you do, I think. And then usually I'll hit market rates on turnovers.
Yeah.
So I try to raise rent as much as I think I can reasonably get each year, but I know I'm not necessarily keeping up with the market.
Yeah.
But then I have enough turnovers where when I turn them over and get those at market, sometimes stuff might take a little bit longer to lease because I'm trying to get that high number, but I know that person's going to stick for a while, so I want to get it out of the gate.
So the real estate that I buy and you buy is a lot of value add real estate. So we're buying something that's either physically distressed or it's an old school landlord that it's financially distressed. So I was walking this 8 unit that I own, on Duke Street, and I have a vacancy there. And it has VCT tile, white painted walls, just real basic. It's got a cast iron sink in the kitchen with like the faucets that come, off the wall. And I was gonna go crazy in there and put granite like I did on the upstairs unit. But what I'm gonna do is just paint it white and just basically do as little as possible. Because I was thinking like through these value add properties, I basically was testing it with that granite and stuff, and it worked. But at the same time, the tenant I put in there she's not beating it, but she's not taking care of it quite as what I liked. So I'm gonna try to just do the bare minimum, but still making it clean and safe. What do you do if you were to buy a multi-unit? How would you go in, from the renovation? Do you just go crazy right away, or are you just trying to do just say like the first unit you turn? Are you going crazy, or are you gonna try to just mediocre?
It usually kind of what drives it is my kitchens.
Yeah.
Like if I have to replace the kitchen or not.
So if you're going to keep the kitchen, then you're not going to replace the counter and put granite. You're going to try to just keep Formica or laminate.
Right. Like I don't want to go nuts, but like the flooring I'm normally replacing. Like I'm usually doing LVP throughout, or like I'll finish the wood floors if I'm gonna
I've had a lot of bad experiences with LVP. I know everyone loves LVP. It looks cool. It's in my office and, at my home. But if the substrate or the subfloor is not perfect, it doesn't matter how well you install it. If it's not perfect, it does like separate and.
I don't like it. I think it's a floor covering. Like it's not a floor. So.
And you're a big proponent. So Dave and I own a lot of properties, but obviously they were all built in 1800. We own a lot of properties with hardwood floors, and every time I'm like, Dave, let's just put carpet over it, or let's just put LVP. And Dave's like, we're refinishing the hardwoods.
Right. I just think like it's a wood floor. The floor is as old as the building. It's 100 years old. It's been there forever. Like how many tenants have been in that place and the floor is still here? So if we can kind of bring it back to the way it looked, it's number one, it's super durable.
Yeah, it's durable because when you scratch LVP, if you get through the coloring of the LVP, it's like gray. It's
just plastic.
You get through the polyurethane or the stain, it's raw wood, dirt gets in there, and then the first 5-10 scratches, yeah, they look a little rough, but once it gets kind of like an even wear.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it just looks rich. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, I got a hardwood floor. Even if it's not like the type of hardwood flooring you might put in your house, they still appreciate it and like it. So I think it's a good thing.
So I got something that we can transition into. I want to talk about obviously the real estate industry in 2008. I wasn't around then, but you've told me how like everyone got into the business. Everyone became a realtor, doctors, ball players, everyone. So something I've seen is a lot of people have gotten into the business, and now a lot of people have made money in the business because this time around we had the internet. So the internet with data, marketing, it's just been crazy. So I've noticed there's tons of gurus, a lot of coaches, and a lot of them are fake. They say that they're leaders and they're not leaders. Do you notice that, or is it just me?
No, I think that's prevalent. I think that was the case last time too, but it's a popularity thing. Like, the market has swollen, it's gotten hot, and then everybody's like, oh, I'm in this space. And then it's really like every other industry, like the Bitcoiners or people like that, like as soon as someone's in the space and they know more than 80% of the other people, all of a sudden they're like coaching it, or they're a guru.
Putting out a course.
Right. And it's like, are you really even doing the business? Or is this something that you did before or previously, or never even did, but just saw enough courses and you're a course salesman?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a thing.
I can't stand it. I think they should be called out. And then they get online and they talk about being, community leaders, and they talk about all this silly stuff when people, they aren't what they say they are.
Well, I think I look at it as anybody that you don't really consider yourself a leader. Like, are people following you? Yeah. Are they looking what you're doing? If that's the case, then
if someone has to tell you they're a leader, that's someone you shouldn't lead or you shouldn't follow, in my opinion. That's like the quarterback being like, guys, I'm the captain. Right. No. Like, if you've ever played a sport, the coach doesn't have to name a captain. There's usually someone on the team that steps up and is just not even naturally a leader. They're either super talented, they're really good at communicating. Those are the things that make you a leader. You're not a leader just because you put on your bio that you're a community leader.
Yeah, like I remember my high school wrestling team, like when I got to be a senior, like I wasn't the world's best wrestler, and we got a new coach and he didn't make me a team captain, and I was like, what the hell? Like I didn't get made a team captain. Well, and then I'm like, I just started grinding it out and working harder. Captain. And then I did something, this one tournament, I like really ground it out, and I ended up coming in third, which is crazy because I wasn't like...
That was wrestling?
Yeah, and then after that, they made me a captain, and then
I have a similar story. So my junior year of high school, which is a really important year in your athletic career, there was another kid who... There was like this political drama with moms and stuff, and my parents don't get into that stuff. So the coach didn't make me a captain. Same thing, just to please these moms, to shut them up. We're like 3 games in, and I'm obviously leading the team, and like I scored all these goals and won this game for us. And he's like, afterwards, it was like, game ball, captain. I was like, thank you. What about, so Dave and I are both realtors. I don't practice too much traditional stuff. I actually have a listing coming up, but it's more just other investors. And then, when you're out there just talking about, business, obviously, you get listings and stuff. What is your opinion on the recent NAR settlement stuff?
Oh, we could talk about this all day.
Do you think it's got a positive, is it a positive thing for the real estate market in the whole? Is it going to benefit realtors? How does it affect investors?
I think it's a bad thing for the consumer. I don't think it's going to change the practice very much. I think
so. Commissions will probably stay the same.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is like the buyer is the one bringing all the money to the transaction anyway. So it doesn't matter what side of the sheet it comes off of. The person bringing the money is the buyer. So if you take away some protection or a service for that person, it's very arguable whether that's going to be good for anybody. It could increase the number of lawsuits if buyers are unrepresented and they feel like the sellers are taking them across. And the buyer, not only do they have to bring all this money to closing, if they're gonna have to pay their own agent, they still have to furnish their house, they gotta do all kinds of stuff. So they're tight. So you don't wanna do anything to make it worse on them, which I feel like is what this does. And as I was talking earlier about home ownership and how important it is to transition from a renter to a homeowner if you're going to be building wealth, this does the exact opposite. And it puts people like us that are investors, who we don't really need a buyer's agent to represent us. We're professionals. We know what we're doing. No. But the guy out there who's trying to buy his first house, doesn't know anything about real estate, he needs somebody else's expertise.
Yeah, I remember when I bought my very first house, I had a home inspection, repairs made. I don't even remember any of it. That's how good the agent did. My personal opinion on the NAR settlement is, regardless of the settlement stuff, I've always thought it was a little odd that a listing agent, like, you hire someone to sell your house. So like in your head, it's like, shouldn't that person bring the buyer? Shouldn't they have a pool of buyers? Like, that's just how I think. Now I know the listing agent's skill was really finding that person that said, yes, I want to sell, and that's how they get paid. Their skill is really just finding the person that wants to sell.
When it used to be more about the network, right?
Because the internet didn't exist.
And the way we sell deals, it's about the network. So someone, like, we have a deal to sell, we're calling up other relationships we have in the industry, trying to get the deal disposition.
But now you don't have to do it. Now you can just put it on Investor Lift and the property sells. So something that I think Investor Lift's actually working on, you and I haven't talked about this, is everything is transactional, right? Like Carvana tried it, and like Carvana might have failed, but that is where things are going, where you can just get online, no negotiating. I want that couch in that color. I want to pick it up on this date. Housing should really be like that, and it's coming. So I saw a podcast where Robert Wensley, the owner of Investor Lift, said they've done one transaction where no human interaction, there was no third party human interaction. There was no wholesaler basically, and no realtor. So a homeowner came onto their platform or some beta platform that they have, put the house for sale, and a cash buyer came and bought it. So I think that's where things are going. I think the like you said, the newbie home buyer, like the first time home buyer, gone. If you can't represent yourself, it's because how can you compete against someone like me?
Right, exactly.
And then it's sort of like I told you this the other night, is like 5 states have now like basically outlawed selling a house that you have contractual interest in, whether that's wholesaling or double closing. You're not allowed to market the property unless you own it. Well, that just makes it easier for me.
Right.
So now I'm a cash buyer. I'm a real cash buyer. I'm not a wholesaler. So now I may wholesale houses, but if a homeowner raises their hand and says they want to sell because they're distressed, there's no middleman between them and me. And actually, we're going to end up buying houses cheaper because now that person doesn't have as many people to shop. Or I mean, how many times you get a call from a seller and it's like, oh yeah, the person from XYZ Home Buyers and Cash Offers coming. Do you want to come too? That's going to start to slim down. So you're really going to be able to go in there and smack the shit out of a seller.
It could happen that way. I think the whole crux of this NAR thing, I think it was Department of Justice heavy-handedness, and I think they're trying to reduce the friction involved in selling real estate, like we're talking about, to kind of commoditize it like a stock, where like you don't need a professional in the middle to sell the real estate.
Well, there's so many people involved in one transaction. You have the listing agent, you have the marketing company that helped the listing agent, you have the listing agent broker, title company, title agent, attorney. Like it goes, title search person, recorder of deeds. Like there's like thousands of people involved in one transaction.
Apparently this was before I got in, but a lot of those people used to show up at settlement. So it was like
a funeral.
Yeah, it was like the lender was at settlement, both agents were at settlement, title agent was at settlement, like the insurance person was at settlement. Like I just can't imagine now. It's not like that anymore, obviously. But
so as the market, goes up and down, and the internet makes it easier on us, harder on us, more lawsuits, settlements with NAR, like that's obviously gonna keep happening. What are you gonna do to try to, or what does your business look like moving forward, and how does that affect it?
With the real estate, who knows? It changes all the time. But all I know is, like, I'm in this for the long term. I'm just gonna keep buying. If it makes it easier or less expensive to buy or sell, I think that's a good thing. What that means for agent relationships and things like that, who's to say? I think agents.
I know what I'm going to do. Yeah. I am going to keep buying real estate also, because the problem is, just like that podcast I saw where the guy was like, oh, interest rates are too high. Well, while he thinks interest rates are too high and he's flipping houses, I'm going to keep buying houses. And you have to cost average stuff, right? So like, never did I ever believe, or you were just talking about a 2-unit, you're looking, or a 3-unit, right? It's what, 175?
170.
Yeah, 170. Do you remember when we sold that 3-unit to that buyer who bought from you on Pennsylvania Avenue, and he paid $115? Or is that what we sold it to?
Yeah, $115.
And we were like, oh, we were all high-fiving like we just ripped his face off.
Right.
Wouldn't you like to buy that back for $115?
I would love to. I'm like, I can't believe I sold that for that.
So I mean, I think that's the biggest, when it comes to real estate, there's all this stuff on the internet about, you know, sell it like this, buy it like this, wholesaling's cool now, subject to is cool. At the end of the day, you just have to buy real estate, sit on it, cash flow. And you and I joke about this all the time, is it's almost like who can withstand the storm so long making no money to one day sell?
Right.
It's really the name of the game.
I told a room full of agents this the other day too, but it's the same thing, like same thing with the wholesalers. I would say the same thing to any of them. Like you gotta buy it. Like you have to close on it and keep it if you're gonna get any of the benefit from it. Like otherwise you're just earning a living.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's what, when I was talking about the other night, we don't do this too often, but like the idea of like a slow flip is honestly like genius. So like just buy the property. You don't need a home run deal. Obviously we're in a time where things have appreciated faster than they normally do, but there's probably been have you ever sold a property 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 let me try this again. Have you ever sold a property a few years later and lost money? No. Right? So as long as you just sit on it, you can kind of wait that storm out. And that's why, like, you know, we wholesale a lot of properties, and occasionally, you know, we were like, oh, we're ethical people. We didn't want to jam someone in something that didn't make sense. But how we kind of accepted what we were doing, if we did think that was like, look, as long as we encourage this person to hold it, they'll be okay.
Right. And I think the vast majority of people that bought stuff from us are doing just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of them have even subsequently sold properties they bought from us and made money in a 2-year time span, which is insane.
That property that we sold on East Market Street, I'm not going to talk about who the buyer is, but you know I'm talking about, the 6 unit.
Yeah.
I listed it and sold it. I saw the HUD. I know what he made on it.
Right.
Now, obviously, he had to put 20% down when he bought it, but like, I mean, it was a 6-figure check he made.
That's crazy.
And we thought we would never buy that property.
Right.
Like, we thought we were, you know, coolest guys on the block, and now he's selling the property and made 6 figures.
Right.
Who's really the cool guy?
Yeah,
you know, you see a lot of wholesalers, they advertise these properties, great buy and hold, and a lot of people get busted on the internet because that means it's basically not a good deal, but I mean,
it is for somebody.
Yeah, it is for somebody.
It isn't for you if you're the wholesaler, I guess.
Yeah. So guys, thanks for watching. I want to just update you guys a little bit on what I'm doing downtown York. And if you guys need to get in touch with me, shoot me a DM on my Instagram, and you can reach Dave on his Instagram or Facebook. I'll tag Dave in the comments below.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.